Epicurus versus Plato. Why modern physics renders Platonic idealism obsolete. The history of philosophy is often told as a story dominated by figures like Plato, whose idealism and metaphysical frameworks shaped centuries of Western thought. However, from the standpoint of modern physics, Plato's abstract, non-empirical worldview has little to offer. In contrast, Epicurus, often marginalized in traditional philosophical canons, emerges as a more relevant thinker, one whose materialist, atomist philosophy laid the conceptual groundwork for the scientific method and modern physics. Plato's metaphysical idealism. Detached from reality, Plato's philosophy hinges on the existence of eternal, immaterial forms or ideas, perfect templates of which all physical objects are mere shadows. According to Plato, the material world is unreliable, changeable, and ultimately illusory. True knowledge, he claims, comes only through intellectual contemplation of these ideal forms. In the Republic, Plato famously compares humans to prisoners in a cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality. From the perspective of empirical science, this dualistic view, which separates the real, invisible, unchanging, from the observable, mutable, material, is not just unhelpful, but fundamentally flawed. Modern physics is built on the assumption that the physical world is real, measurable, and governed by natural laws that can be observed, tested, and revised through evidence. No physicist constructs theories by appealing to non-empirical ideals. Instead, science depends on models that are validated by experiment and falsifiable predictions. In short, Plato's metaphysics is an anti-scientific stance. It discourages investigation into the natural world and promotes abstract speculation divorced from experience. The idea that reality is ultimately non-physical runs counter to the entire foundation of physics, which seeks to understand the structure and behavior of matter and energy, not idealized non-material forms. Epicurus, the father of materialist science. In stark contrast to Plato, Epicurus developed a philosophy rooted in the natural world, the senses, and the atomist theory originally proposed by Democritus. Epicurus taught that the universe is composed entirely of atoms and void, a viewpoint that not only mirrors modern physics in structure, but also in spirit. For Epicurus, all phenomena, including thought and sensation, arise from the interactions of physical particles. This is strikingly similar to the framework of quantum physics and particle theory today, which describe the universe in terms of subatomic particles governed by natural laws. Epicurus rejected supernatural explanations and argued that nothing occurs by divine intervention. Everything follows from the motion and arrangement of atoms. He also posited that the soul, what we would call consciousness, is material and dissipates at death, thereby denying immortality and the metaphysical soul, another sharp break from Platonic mysticism. Moreover, Epicurus emphasized empirical observation as a guide to knowledge. While he acknowledged the limitations of the senses, he argued that sensation is the only reliable source of information about the world. This emphasis on sense data, natural causation, and material reality makes Epicureanism an intellectual ancestor of the scientific method. How modern physics aligns with Epicurus. Today, modern physics confirms and deepens the ancient insights of Epicurean atomism. Quantum mechanics, particle physics, and thermodynamics are all grounded in the understanding that the universe is made up of fundamental particles interacting in lawful, though probabilistic, ways. The discovery of atoms, molecules, electrons, quarks, and bosons all vindicate the core Epicurean idea. Everything that exists is composed of physical matter moving in space. Even Epicurus's belief in the randomness of atomic motion, a controversial idea in antiquity, has a parallel in quantum indeterminacy, where particles do not follow deterministic paths but exist in probabilistic states. His theory of the atomic swerve, Kleinemann, was intended to explain free will in a materialist framework, not far from how contemporary scientists wrestle with reconciling determinism and randomness. Importantly, Epicurus' rejection of divine explanations for natural events anticipates the secular approach of science today. Modern physics does not appeal to gods, forms, or supernatural causes. It seeks to explain the universe by natural laws and material interactions, precisely what Epicurus advocated over 2,000 years ago. Why Plato's influence has been misguided. Plato's lasting influence on theology, metaphysics, and idealist philosophy has arguably hindered the development of empirical science in many historical contexts. Medieval scholasticism, heavily influenced by Platonic and Neoplatonic thought, spent centuries debating abstract concepts like the nature of being, the soul, or divine perfection, often in opposition to observable evidence. It wasn't until thinkers began to abandon this model in favor of observation, hypothesis, and experimentation, as in the scientific revolution, that physics as a discipline could flourish. Moreover, Plato's view that the senses deceive and that the real world is but a flawed copy of an unseen perfection undercuts scientific inquiry. If reality is inherently flawed and misleading, why trust empirical data at all? By contrast, Epicurus empowers the observer, insists on the reliability of sense perception, and grounds knowledge in experience, the foundation of all scientific endeavor. Conclusion: the true philosopher of physics. If philosophy is meant to clarify our place in the universe and give us a framework for understanding reality, then Epicurus, not Plato, is the philosopher whose thought has stood the test of time. His commitment to materialism, empiricism, and natural explanation makes him not only more scientifically accurate, but more intellectually honest than the mystical idealism of Plato. While Plato gazed at invisible worlds of perfection, Epicurus studied the visible world and its natural causes, and it is this approach that modern physics has embraced. In light of modern scientific understanding, Plato's metaphysics is obsolete, while Epicurus' materialist worldview remains a robust and prophetic foundation for the pursuit of knowledge.